Hi guys, back again. Last night I did a tutorial on stabbing methodology, but for training. We talked about using a sponge knife. We talked about thrusting drill. We talked about range control from the tip and the edge, whether the arm's bent, whether it's straight. We talked about how to enter for elbow control. Once you're comfortable with that thing, then you want to take a step back and think about what can you do that's really going to interrupt a person's attack. And again, it depends on where you are range-wise based on what's coming at you. And let's just say a knife, just for explanation. Your opponent has to be able to see, just like you have to be able to see. And one of the most underused tactics is a simple eye stab or eye strike or flick or raking your fingers across the eye. And we've all got an eyelash in our eye, and the world stops till we get the eyelash out, right? And when you watch training and people doing all these fancy techniques and the simplest thing people can do is a simple eye strike, but you don't see it practiced. I'm a big believer in simplicity, and the thing I like about the eye strike, it's just like throwing a boxer's jab. The only difference is you're extending your hands. And we all know how, if a boxer knows how to jab, he really knows how to jab. He spent years learning and understanding the jab. He's going to hit you with it. Doesn't matter what you have in your hand. And so with this said, to me, that's a fantastic training tool, is actually striking, flicking the eyes. To build up your fingers, you can get in a position or just hold yourself on your fingertips. This is a great way to do it. Lean up against the wall, hold your finger, that kind of thing. But what you want to do when you train is you can get any kind of headgear, put a plastic visor on it, drill some holes in it so you can breathe. Actually practice touching up, you know. You could put the glasses on, but you know what? It doesn't work so well because they move, and even goggles don't work so well. The best thing to do is to either get a football helmet. A motorcycle helmet's kind of big with the visor, but that's the idea. And what really works good is in Point Karate, they have those little foam headgears, and you can get plastic lens form that you can actually touch. And because the idea is you don't have to do this hard, but you want to do it fast, and you want to practice touching. So, for instance, if you're here on a bag and you have to be able to get in and touch where the eyes will be. You know what I mean? And so this is good practice. And now when you're dealing with the edge of the weapon, or the point, or the tip, obviously that comes into play. But remember, with the stabbing action is out and in. If they do it with footwork, okay? Sometimes they'll do a pattern. Now with the practice I mentioned before, you get used to the idea. Now when you're doing range control on the outside, there comes a point you have to invade. And normally that's going to be riding the arm back. So it comes out, you're going to ride it back in. That's typically what's done. And obviously you want to ride it back in on the outside of the attacking bearing limb. With that said, when you ride it back in, that's when you want to eye strike. Okay? Then go into your control methods. And you want to practice finishing. Super, super important. Don't just go through the motions, you know. Take the guy out of it so you can get away. Now, this doesn't mean kill him. You don't want to get into that. For self-defense reasons, for legalities and stuff like that, unless you're dealing with a firearm, you want to stop him. You want to have that mindset in your head. And why do I say unless you're dealing with a firearm? Normally when you're going to shoot somebody, the idea is to kill them. You're not going to shoot them in the leg. You're going to center mass. You're going to take them out of there. Well, with the edge weapon, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, and especially if you're unarmed. You want to get yourself safe. So the things that you can do to help yourself is get used to eye strikes, get used to throat hits, get used to groin hits. The problem when we train in schools and with our buddies is we don't want to hurt our friend, our opponent, and stuff like that. That's what equipment's for. Wear the proper equipment so you can get as close to real as possible. And then also train on dummies so you can strike them, with intent. And mentally you have to get past that nice guy thing when it's real. And the fact of the matter is, unless you practice it, it's not going to happen. When you go through the motions and you're not doing it for real, you're not doing it with real intent, you're not doing it with adrenaline dump, you know what? When it comes for real, you're going to freeze. We all have those tendencies, and freezing is a very, very important part of being attacked. And keep in mind, when we're working on it with whatever curriculum we're doing, and we're training in a school, and we're training among peers, and we have teachers there, the whole 9 yards, there has to be a certain etiquette so we don't hurt our training partners, okay? And I'm all for that. But we can't say that that's going to help the real deal. What you're learning to do there is you're mapping out the moves, right? Then that's all cool. You want to train under duress. You want to gear yourself to that. And believe it or not, it can be a lot of fun. But just like playing football, you really get used. At first, you just play tag football, right? And then you get into playing. Oh wow, it's tackle football. This is for real. There's a certain amount of fun, but at the same time, there's a certain amount of realism that keeps you in check mentally. You understand what has to happen. Well, your martial training or self-defense training should be the same thing in terms of when we're talking about self-defense. How do we really stop an attack? How do we really survive an attack? Don't theorize it, practice it. Don't just go through the motions, do it, and do it with non-cooperation, and you get the best feedback from it. I can't stress this enough. But I don't want to get off track here. The simple things a person has to be able to see: eye strikes, groin hits, stomp the knee, stomp the foot, elbow the nose, hit the hinges, know where to hit and strike on a body. If a person's extending his hand, hyperextend the elbow. You can pop it out at the same time. If he's throwing a right hand with it, boom, you hit the opposite of you with the disarm a knife. You hit inside and you hit outside the elbow, the hyperextend for a second. And then from there, you can come in, eye strike. These are the things you want to practice. And it's really the 1, 2, 3 things, boom, boom, boom. And when you get good at this, then you play in the outside line. They have to make a committed strike, okay? Now, the other side of that is you are preemptive. And once they draw the blade, you shut it down right there. There's all kind of scenario bases you can play, okay? Now, keep in mind, this is when it's already under action. You got nowhere to go, you're trapped. Because if you can run away, you should. But there's times you're not going to be able to run away. And when you can't run away, it's important that you can turn that switch on and you can fight. But you want to fight smart. Okay, and now when I say fight, I mean stand up for yourself. Don't be a victim. Okay, now we're getting into the law part of it, right? Where's the cutoff point? When the threat stops. When you're out of danger, when the threat stops, that's the cutoff point. But while you're in danger, you don't want to be going crazy. You want to be using your mind with your training. That's what all this training is supposed to be about. So when you train, think of simple, quick solutions to problems as they arise, and they change like that. And so if you train this way, it'll be there. If you don't, it won't. But I did want to touch on this, because I teach the self-defense side of stuff. I'm not real sport-oriented. We study boxing, kickboxing, grappling, hapkido, all that stuff. But my mind has always been from a reality-based perspective. Okay, what happens? Not a ring perspective, not a sport perspective. I have found the two don't correlate at all. There's people who would disagree with me, but that's okay. I'm talking about my own experiences. So if you're gonna practice with the mindset of self-defense, you want to learn how to shut function down. Yeah, you can knock the guy out. Yeah, you can stab him in the organ. Yeah, you can break his neck. But what does he need to do to have function? He needs to be able to operate his limbs. That's what legs are going to get him to you, so his hands can touch you. That's why you want to concentrate on those aspects of it. Hapkido's awesome at it. That's one of the main martial arts that I love so much. and for the joint manipulation, for the balance control. And I like boxing for the mobility, the defensive aspects, the footwork. I like knife studies and stick studies for the reality base of that stuff hurts. The stick can knock the hell out of you, the knife will kill you, can catch you. Okay? And in terms of firearm, okay, that's a whole nother level of armed self-defense. And I'll touch that on different tapes too. Dry fire drills, presentation, roles, all that stuff. I'm not a big advocate of being in position to practice firearm. I like to be all over the place and for the what ifs. But anyway, that's another tape. I don't want to get off track here again. So think about your eye strikes. Think about your simple things. Somebody reaches to grab you, bend those fingers. Okay? Somebody stepping for you. Maintain range control. The tip starts to come at you. As the tip comes at you, maintain range control. Then enter. Practice these things. Of course, you start slow, then you build up your speed. And keep it real simple with the stabs. Right? You learn the flow of footwork, the pendulum training. Sun Yun Pet has awesome flow drills that are just a cut above everything else that's out there. Because there is a flow to a fight. And that's another important part that's important to understand. Now, when you're attacked out of nowhere and you're not ready, the very first thing you need to learn how to do is move. What will happen is most people will look and freeze. Okay? How do you get better at that? Have somebody sneak up on you all the time. I make that part of you guys' training, you know, with your pals. You'll get good at it. You'll get real good at it if you practice it. Okay? All right, that's just something that you know, when I went to sleep last night, I didn't touch on a lot of things. Well, because I don't want to make the tape too long, but that always ends up happening. But think about those simple things like eye strikes when you're training, finger manipulation, sweeps. You know, a person has to step to you to reach you. You know, these are things you want to get them worried about that. You know, when they're coming to hurt you. So, again, it's a mental methodology too as well. You know, so be sure that keep it simple and train with intent and practice going to the eyes. So get yourselves the proper eye protection and stuff like that, and make it so you get the goodness out of it, because this stuff is really cool, and there's so many people walking around like victims when they don't have to. Even trained martial artists have doubts, but the more reality-based you train, the less your doubts are. Okay, and this is important. Now, remember when I say reality-based, I'm talking about somebody trying to come and hurt you, hurt your family, break into your house, rob you, rape. I'm not talking about the MMA map. Okay? Again, that is sport. So I'm not talking about the kickboxing ring. I'm talking about real life where people mean to do you harm, and there's a lot of ugly out there, but it doesn't have to own you. You can own it, but you have to train. Okay, all right. Anyway, thanks for following me on YouTube. I really appreciate it, guys. I am trying to put myself out there. I consider myself a coach. I've been doing it a very long time. I have a lot of fun with it. But I do dance to the beat of a different drummer, so to speak. And that's okay, but I'm going to put it out there just like that. But you can visit me on YouTube or email me at billyboston@gmail.com. And please, I take any advice, critiques, questions. It's all good. Or combativefitnessworkshop@hotmail.com. That's my business name. Otherwise, everybody have a great day, and please consider the reality of your training so you get the most out of it. Okay, all the other stuff is awesome, you know, the peace of mind, the fitness, and all this other stuff. But why do we do this stuff? You know, if we're talking about combat, if we're talking about, you know, staying safe, then your training needs to reflect this. All right. Anyway, take care. I'll talk to you next time.